Welcome to our last day of the 7-day productivity challenge. In this last 7 days, we have covered a lot. We have covered mastering distractions by setting a timer. We've been teaching ourselves to focus, very intently focus, reducing distraction, using the do not disturb feature on our phone, prioritizing with your one thing. We've addressed overwhelm. There's just too much on our to-do list and what to do about that. Elimination, the hell yes, no, and parking lot list. We also got clarity, how to be focused on results versus just task. Don't just be a soldier. Do not put your head down and your helmet on when it comes to your to-do list. Be very aware of the task that you're actually focused on. I mean, we've covered a lot in the last 6 days. Today is the 7th. We also had a killer challenge worksheet that you're able to download and walk through each day with us. And again, that's not just for this week. We can do that next week and the week after to stay more productive and make sure that we're focused on the right things when it comes to our time management. But for today, we answered some of your questions. We got a lot. Unfortunately, we didn't get to answer them all, but we've got several of them. There's some overlap in there. Let's get into those questions. All right. So let's see. Let's get to the first one. So not answering emails after dinner. We've actually talked a little bit about this on the podcast as well. So my spouse gets mad at me, but I don't want to get behind as there are always after hours emails. Okay. So we've talked about this in the podcast and we talked a little bit about it here. So if you've got emails that you've got to bang out, you can't do them in the office because you've got coworkers or things demanding your attention, and you need to answer them. Sometimes it's as simple as just going to your car and answering them there. If someone's going to come knock on your window or bug you, pull around the building, you got this, bang out the emails there, but set a timer. I don't want you sitting in your car for an hour or 90 minutes answering emails. I want you to do it for 15, 20 minutes, even if that simply means that the email that's getting responded is just, hey, saw your email. I'll get you back a response tomorrow, or you'll get my full attention tomorrow, or thanks for the message. We'll dig into this first thing tomorrow morning. Better yet, have a canned response. Don't have to rethink every time because that pulls in decision fatigue. It makes you belabor over, well, is this one that I actually should answer right now? I want you to have whether that's in your drafts folder in your email or just a text chain that's saved on your phone, that's just kind of this auto reply that you're sending that feels personalized, but really it's just saying, hey, thanks for the message. I'll be responding back after 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, something like that. But again, set a timer. Don't sit there for an hour or 2 hours answering emails. Sit there for 15, 20 minutes, wrap it up, and get on with the rest of your day. This is all about getting through your to-do list and getting your work done quick so that you can get on to the other things in your life that you're supposed to be enjoying. All right. So another thing about answering emails, we've got to set expectations, boundaries, and enforce them with our coworkers, with our staff, with our boss, with our clients. We teach people how to treat us. And when we make an exception, then they know that our boundaries are fluid. And that can become a real problem, because if you are always answering emails late at night, well, then people start to expect, sometimes they don't even realize it, but they'll start to expect that you're going to answer those emails late at night. Now, if you've been doing that and you're like, I've been doing this for 10 years, how do I work backwards? You can reteach people how to treat them. Sometimes you actually have to verbally reset expectations. And sometimes you can just, okay, yeah, I saw your email, come over and I'll get back to you tomorrow morning. Sometimes they need an actual conversation. Hey, I know you sent over these proposals at 8 o'clock at night and I try to get back to them. Going forward, here's what this looks like. Reset that expectation. In an ideal world, though, we're just not going to answer them at night. In an ideal world, we're going to set the expectation that, say, after 6:30, that's my time. That's my family's time. That's my time to recharge and recoup so that tomorrow I can come and hit it full force, but I can't get you that answer tonight. So that is the most ideal situation, but I want to give you alternatives to that because sometimes that's just not going to work for us. So again, let's clarify that that's option number one. That's the most ideal circumstance. Option number two is answering it in your car. Option number three, I want to be a realist here. So in our business at Maven and PivotMe, we operate out of, I think it's 7 time zones, right? So what does that mean? There's messages always coming up. There is when one team member is coming off off their hours, off shift, another one is coming back on. Well, that can get really complicated in coordinating things. And there's things that we do on the back end. We use Slack and Asana and different things to coordinate, which work great. But sometimes there's a push, there's a project that's going out that's going to require our attention into the night. What you can do in situations like that, especially if you're, several time zone team, set expectations and create a sort of a virtual office hours. So for example, from 7 to 7:30, just for example, that's the time where I'm going to respond back to these. And I can give quick replies. I can do quick recalibrations. We're not banging out proposals at that time. We're not doing something that's real exhaustive or takes a lot of thought. It's just, I can recalibrate some things in these virtual office hours. I'm essentially replying, and then that's it. So that is a way that if you are operating across time zones, if you have someone that works at night, if you're a tech company and it seems like everyone's working 24/7, that is a way that you can handle that. But be aware that does come with a cost. You don't pop into your virtual office hours and work from 7 to 7:30 and then just float on out and you're back to the same place. You've got to be intentional about transitioning into that new environment and showing up and being, your partner or mom or dad, or if you're out to dinner with friends, you don't just come back as the same person. That interaction has affected how you're showing up and your energy. You got to shift back into like, all right, I'm back to home mode. So if you need to have virtual office hours at night, do them, but recognize there's a cost and you have to be cognizant of how to show up differently when you're done with those virtual office hours. All right. The other thing is, if you are someone that responds to the emails at 9:00 at night, you've been doing it for years, or that's just when you're productive, but you don't necessarily want to set that precedence. Here's a little trick to that. Use the delayed delivery feature on your email. So hopefully your email server, your Outlook or whatever you use has this available, but we use it all the time. So I'm just thinking about someone that I was just having a conversation with recently, and he likes to reply to his emails between like 9 and 11 o'clock at night, but he doesn't necessarily want to set the expectation that he's available then. So that's fine. Have them all set up and then do a delayed delivery so that they all go out and they're actually delivered at 9 a.m. the next morning. So, wow, is this guy super efficient? First thing in the morning, it's all the emails from last night. So you can do a delayed delivery where you're like, I want this off my to-do list. I want it to be done, but I don't want to set the expectation that I'm always replying the night before. Use the delayed delivery feature. So let's get to the next set of questions that you've got. I'm working. Let's do this. Okay. I'm working remote right now, which is not my usual. It's not so much my kids, but it's my spouse needing me, interrupting me. And I get off track with all the questions and comments. How should I handle this? All right. Who's been in that situation? Okay. This is also around setting expectations. First, let's start with, don't work in the living room. I'm most likely talking to men here. I'm amazed how often we post up right in the hub of our family activity, and then we're frustrated that the kids aren't quiet because we're on our Zoom call. This is not the place to post up. So if you are working remote and you are not typically a remote worker, pick an appropriate place to work, even if it means your bedroom. I mean, yeah, there's problems with that because you're blending business and work, or your bedroom. And yes, there's problems with that, but many are working remote and it's not usual for them. Ideally, you've got an office that you can go in and you can shut the door and you can be in a whole nother world, but don't do it at the kitchen table. I know so many are doing that right now. Don't do it at the kitchen table. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your partner. Don't do that to your kids. Find an appropriate place to work. That's number one. Number two is set expectations around your work hours. Ideally, you're saying I work, for example, 8 to 5, but sometimes that's not reasonable. Our family is going to try to get us before then. So what can you do in that situation? So maybe it's, okay, I started work at 8. At 10 o'clock, I'm going to come out. And if you have any questions for me, if there's something you need to check with me or ask me, we'll do it at 10 a.m. I will come out. And that's different than them coming into your space. You're going out to the space. This is really effective, both with spouses, but also with kids, when we set the expectation that I'm coming out, mommy or daddy's coming out at 10 o'clock. So if you have questions or something you want to show me, oh, you drew a dinosaur leopard man, I want to see it, but I want to see it at 10 a.m. and I'll come out. So again, coming back to setting expectations and enforcing those expectations. when struggling on a particular day, so say there's just a lot of questions from our spouse, a lot of questions from our kids, sometimes connecting them to our why can help. So for example, mommy's got to get this proposal over because her client can't do his work. He's sitting there waiting for his work until mommy sends her proposal over. Sometimes that helps with kids, our spouses. Maybe that looks different. Maybe it's like, honey, you like that car, the new car in the driveway? I got to work to pay for that car. So whatever that looks like, but connecting them to your why of just, it's not just another work day. Hey, I've got to get this proposal out. Hey, I've got to make this important phone call. That can help set expectations, help them understand your why. They're not always going to get the idiosyncrasies, the nuances of our business, and they're not supposed to. Keep it simple, but connect them a little bit to the why. And it helps, especially with our spouses, it helps them, it gives that space. The other thing is, gives that space you can complete your work. The other thing is, with the first part of what I was explaining, let them know when they can have your attention again. So in saying, yeah, the workday maybe is 8 to 5, for example, whatever your workday looks like, and saying, hey, you can have my attention at 10 a.m. I know you want to talk to me. I'm home. Usually I'm available for you. I'm not now. That's an adjustment, but let them know when they can have your attention again. Set a time. So those are some ways to deal with working remote in this season. Our next question is, I'm still distracted by the news. So much is developing very fast. And honestly, social media at times, even LinkedIn has pulled me down the rabbit hole. How do I address this? So in this environment today, people are struggling to stay away from news sources and social media during the day because it is a very, very dynamic time. We're going to say dynamic. It's a very dynamic time. And people feel like they have to be connected. Like I have to stay abreast of what's developing, what's going on. We can feel like a little bit of in a vacuum when we don't. So let's start with the ideal. The ideal situation is you're not doing any of that during the workday, because it's not just about, like we were talking about earlier, it's not just about the amount of time that you're on. If you pop on the news and you go, I'm just going to be on for 10 minutes, just going to be on for 10 minutes. When you pop on, whatever you saw on the news has affected you. You are bringing that into the next activity you do. It's not like I'm just going to pop on the news for 10 minutes and I'm going to walk into this marketing meeting and it's not going to affect me at all. Oh, yes, it is. It's going to affect you. You're going to bring that energy right in there with you. So I want you to be aware of what you're consuming and how it's influencing you. Nobody walks through the pool without getting wet. Now, I'm not saying you can't do it, but we've just got to be aware of that and then be conscious about transitioning to that new environment. So if you are going to look at the news, if you are going to look at social media, if there's just so much going on and you're distracted, but you want to manage that distraction, but you just can't give it up during the day, set a timer and only allow yourself to do that. So you might go, my sister just sent me what might be a great TikTok video. I want to look at it. Well, you can't look at it right now because you are allowed to watch TikTok videos between 10 and let's say noon. So let's say lunch, 12 and 12:15 today, because I'm going to be at lunch and I'm going to be sitting there at my desk, or I'm going to be out for a walk at lunch. And this is my time that I look at Bernie Sanders memes, for example, real life scenario, because they're amazing and they're hilarious. Make sure that it's set a time. And again, but be aware that it's just going to change your focus, but set a time for when you're looking at the news or you're looking at social media during the day. Ideally, you're not. If you are, real life, real talk, set the time in advance and know that you get to sit there and scroll as much as you want for that 15, 20 minutes, and then you're done and you got to get back to being focused at work. Next question is, I started time blocking. If I set the timer, it works well for me, but it doesn't seem to work well for everyone around me. The interruptions are less, but they're still there. What do I do? Of course, it does not work for other people. People don't want to wait to talk to you. People don't want to wait to have your attention. They see you, they want it now. It's the same thing with our spouse and our kids. It's the same thing with our team. It's the same thing when I'm looking at my team. If I want their attention, I want it right now. It's not going to work for other people. But it's not about it working for other people. It's about it working for you. So it's creating the system that's going to support our productivity, also reinforcing the system that supports our productivity. So this comes back to setting expectations. Are you communicating your time blocking? Are you letting people know I am unavailable and give them an alternative path for engagement? So, for example, And this is something we do. This is something we've done in the past with sales reps and real estate agents when they're time blocking and they're doing outbound calling. So for example, it might be setting expectations around, I'm time blocking from 9 to 11 this morning, doing outbound sales calls. If you need me, send me an email, to which I will answer after 11 a.m. So what I'm doing is clear. Why I'm doing it's clear, because I'm in sales. And if I don't outbound call, I will die on the vine. And also when they'll be able to get you again. So after 11 a.m. Communicate what you're doing and when they can have you back, and reinforce this too. Just like with kids, when we make exceptions, they know our boundaries are fluid. Works like this with all of us humans. Like, oh, well, they were time blocking, but I was able to sneak in one question real quick. It won't be an anomaly. It will become a habit that you allowed to happen. So again, we teach people how to treat us. So time block, communicate it, and then reinforce that. Sorry, I'm time blocking. I can't do that right now. Sorry, I'm working on this project right now. It's going to have to wait. Send me an email, send me a text. I'll get to it all later, but you cannot have my time and attention right now. That is incumbent upon you. Now, let me do this. Let me talk to the managers, the leaders right now. We have to respect our staff's time blocking. And I know this is hard, because when I call, I want them to answer, because when I email them, I want them to reply, but we cannot expect that, because if we do that, if we do not respect their time blocking, we are decreasing their productivity and we're increasing their stress. Do not do that to your staff. So if you're time blocking, also respect and encourage your staff to time block as well, and then respect them. Respect their boundaries. Do not just run through and say, yeah, but I needed you real quick, because it's not just about the time that you ask that question to your staff. It is about the time you have thrown them off and they need to readjust. Task switching. We lose lots of minutes in task switching. That's another topic altogether, but please respect your staff's time blocking too. Let's get to our next one. This looks like our final one. The timer, okay, so the timer, what we talked about in day one, the timer actually does keep me on track, but am I setting it all day and for every task? The short answer is yes. Yes, you are. I reset my timer multiple times a day, depending on what I'm doing, and what my day is filled with. The most successful people I work with set a timer repeatedly throughout the day. It's how they stay focused, how they master distraction, and how they stay just highly, highly productive. We found that there's a direct correlation with the amount of times a timer is set during the day and productivity, especially with larger projects. If I'm sitting down for a 2-hour project, I'm literally resetting that timer probably 5 or 6 times during that one project. So yes, I'm doing it over and over again. It is always the first tab of my internet browser. You want it to be in a very easily accessible place. You know that I'm not a fan of using your phone for it. In a pinch, you can, but it's not the most ideal situation. So I use an internet timer that is on the first tab of my internet browser. Why? Because it reduces friction. Now that's in relation to habits and high performance habits. That's another talk that we'll eventually get into, is high performance habits, but we want to reduce friction on how to get to our timer. But I'm literally resetting it over and over again. So that's talk about large projects. But this has also been asked is, what about when you're having a conversation with somebody? Do I set a timer for then? The answer is probably yeah. For me, I'm a talker, but I'm also naturally curious. And what does that mean? It is a deadly combination that my conversations go on way longer than they're supposed to be. So I might be slated for a 20-minute conversation, and it's very easy for me to go to 30 minutes. This, if you work with me, if you're in my masterminds, you know that this is something that I actively struggle with. I like to hear people's stories. I like to hear their responses. I like to dig in a little bit deeper. And I also like to chat. So this is a huge problem. But if I set the timer, it reminds me when I'm over. Now I can make a decision whether I give it an extra 5 minutes or an extra 10 minutes. But yes, reset your timer over and over again. I would maybe the way we need to phrase it is only set your timer repeatedly if you want to be productive repeatedly. So we had more questions. Unfortunately, we were not able to get to all of the questions that you have. If you send them in, we will get you responses to this. We want you to be more productive, but let's do this. So here's what I would like to invite you to do. hop over to our 4 steps video, our 4 steps free video series. It's totally free. It's one video each day, one worksheet each day to help you be more productive, to go further in your productivity journey. Let me give you the website first. It's at pivot-me.com/4 steps. This is critical to getting more done, because though you have become more productive in the 7-day journey with me, it's not just about getting more things off your to-do list. What I hope that I'm doing in this time is changing how you feel, your relationship with time, with how you see time, how you see productivity, and the value of your time. It is our one non-renewable resource, and I want you to protect that against all odds. If you would, in addition to, hold on, get a little glitch there. We're good. In addition to signing up for the 4 steps program, again, it's free. It's easy. It's a no-brainer. We've made it so easy to do. In addition to that, if you would, share the 7-day productivity challenge, share the 4 steps program with someone who really is struggling with overwhelm, is struggling with stress, has too many competing priorities, or are sitting there going, how do I get it all done? I'm so very overwhelmed, especially working parents right there, or even stay-at-home parents. They're really struggling to move the needle at work and kind of keep things not being on fire at home. This is a real struggle that people are having right now today. So please share it with them. If you found this, I hope you found this to be incredibly helpful, productive, and most importantly, changed how you thought about time. Again, it's not just about getting more things off your to-do list. It's about getting what needs to get done faster so you can get on with the rest of your life, because you've earned this life, and I want to make sure you have time to enjoy it. Thank you so much for being part of the 7-day Pivot Me Productivity Challenge, and make it an amazing and productive day. Take care.